Outgoing Premier Job Mokgoro has resigned as a member of the North West Legislature. His office released a letter this morning. His resignation comes just a day after he announced that he was stepping down as Premier. Mokgoro says he has communicated his decision to the Speaker of the North West Legislature. Joining me now is Paul Sebegoe, Provincial Chairperson of SANCO in the North West. A very good morning to you, Mr. Sebegoe. Thank you so much for your time. Job Mokgoro has left his seat in the legislature, but it was a rather complicated matter. I understand that you were speaking to him on the phone during this process.
Yes, I can confirm indeed that we have had the communication in between. Of course, that we have a better understanding in terms of his current situation and how he wants to move forward.
Let's now talk about this morning's announcement of him leaving his seat in the legislature. What does that essentially mean for the province and the processes that need to follow?
Yeah, actually it's bringing end to speculative reports and so forth, and it will also help to bring stability and sanity in terms of the direction which the province wants to pursue going forward. And,
you know, there's a big question that has been posed and asked as to why this move needed to be made in such a dramatic manner, why the ANC was in such a hurry to ensure that Mokgoro is indeed out of his position after initially headhunting him to lead the province in 2018.
Yeah, well, you would agree that I'm not the spokesperson of the ANC as such, and I thought they have tried their best to try to explain that part. Ours is to ensure that at least there's an incumbent so that there are programs which are clarified to their communities in terms of how best service delivery can be accelerated. And we now are pleased that at least the process from here would be smooth to ensure that there is an incumbent we have full authority and mandate to express views on government wants to move. And that's why we would want to engage in terms of having land on the past, on areas that could not be sufficiently addressed. That needs to be an urgent attention so that our people can receive service without any further compromise.
Many municipalities in the Northwest have experienced severe problems. Of course, we know the province remains plagued by a governance crisis with 6 municipalities placed under administration. How do you foresee movement towards a better run province?
I think areas of municipalities are of critical importance for us. It's one area that we don't want to see any compromise. It's a very regrettable situation. It can't be that similar issues get raised at all material times. If you look at the Auditor General's report, where people spend public funds, but they cannot account on how these funds were spent, it cannot go on without serious consequences. We want to really appeal very strongly that government will have to zoom in as a matter of urgency, especially given that currently there are processes that are underway to ensure there is new leadership in municipalities. We have heard the President's views in terms of what is expected, where you would need qualified people. You can't just have people who have never been trained in various fields of administration and yet expect them to lead these institutions. We want to see a turnaround strategy, and that turnaround must start with the deployment, the right deployment of people with skills that are required, that are relevant for these municipalities. There must be consequences management. It will be very, very regrettable if we are still going to see same faces appearing again in terms of the deployment within municipalities as such. So we hope that the incumbent would also not have to wait until the next elections. Instead, he will have to make it his priority to ensure that all the issues that were raised in municipalities, all issues that were raised as a result of the interventions in these municipalities receive attention as a matter of urgency. We cannot wait for another 6 months for the next elections. We want to see consequences in these municipalities. If we have to recover money like the SIU is doing, I think maybe that should be the best option, because this one of having to go through a long process of disciplinary process seems not to be yielding any result. So that is our appeal, to ensure that our people are not compromised in terms of the basic services that are urgently required.
As you make this appeal, and with Bushy Mape now stepping into the position, what do you think should be highest on his priority list in terms of really addressing the problems that are plaguing the communities in the Northwest?
What needs to happen, one, is that there must be proper project management that must be put in place, where the projects plan as provided for are not compromised as such. And also, the focus in terms of this project management must to ensure that projects are accordingly delivered as per the agreed timeline, and that there is quality. There must also be monitoring to ensure that you link money to the physical existence of projects. You must go physically check whether, if they are saying they have spent 10 million on a particular project, whether that structure does exist. It's one critical area. But another aspect relates to job creation. You would agree that the current unemployment rate is of worrying factor. So it cannot be that we continue to spend money on infrastructure, but this infrastructure does not translate into job creation. We want to see, the reduction on on unemployment, but also of critical importance is the employment of youth. If you look at the unemployment rate, it's predominantly at the level of the youth. The crime in South Africa is very high as a result of the unemployment of the youth. So it's an area that we would appreciate the Premier to really look into. But also our assets in the Northwest, which are not properly utilized, we need to dispose them of, because the maintenance cost to keep these assets is quite very high. Every year, there's money set aside to try and improve on these assets. If they have reached their lifespan, dispose of these assets, maybe to the benefit of those who might use them profitably as such. Those are the areas that we think the Premier would have to seriously look into. But also the commitment of civil servants is an area that will have to receive attention, where we must ensure that there is value for money. If people are employed, they must be able to do what they are actually expected to do. Our serious concern in municipalities, you would know that it is expected that the employment rate at municipalities must be 35% of the overall budget. But you would go to every municipality, they have far exceeded 35%, which was a baseline set on the amount of percentage cost that can be incurred on the provision of services, which is very high. It's an area that we need to look into. There must be a reduction, so that you don't just find municipalities existing just for the purpose of paying salaries. It's an area that will really help a lot. Unauthorized direct and protest expenditure that are a no-no. We want to see cases being opened where money could not be accounted for. It can be corrected. You actually reflect a particular amount of money having been spent, but you cannot even account on how this money was spent. I mean, that's pure criminal, and necessary processes will have to be put in place. Consequences management, it's a serious problem, because there seems not to be a willingness at the level of political leadership to take decisions on non-performance, as well as an accountability on how funds were spent. I think if these areas can receive immediate attention, there will be some value added, and our people will begin to see how money, which is their taxes and so on, have been properly utilized.
Absolutely. Let's leave it there for now. Thank you so much for weighing in there. Paul Sebegoe, Provincial Chairperson of SANCO in the Northwest, giving his perspective on the tasks that lie ahead for the incoming Premier of the Northwest, Bushy Mape.